Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
I'm really excited about today's episode. I'm singing the song in my head, "Life is a Highway." Do you remember that? You remember that
Oh
song?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I that song's buzzing around my head because today we're talking about GPS and
Yes.
using your personal GPS to help you achieve any goal that you want.
And like we normally do, we try to make this simple and relatable. And I think it's easy to make goals complicated and just think, oh, well, I don't want to sit down and do it. I don't know where to start. And I hear that from a lot of people. This is I don't, and often it is they tell us what they don't want. So very few people are clear enough to say, this is what I want. They're just saying, this is what I don't want. This is what I'm sick of. This is what I don't want anymore, which I guess in one sense is better to at least have some standards. I
Yeah.
mean, that part is good for sure, but they're missing the next step, which is not an easy step, but it's a simple step.
Yeah. And so I love the GPS analogy so much, and the reason why is really this. I think most of the time, right, when we pull out our GPS in our car, when we're driving someplace, we pull out our GPS, it's for a couple of different reasons, right? Sometimes it's because we're lost,
Yeah.
right? And we don't know where we're going, and we need help
Right.
getting there, or we don't
Yep.
know
Yep.
the directions,
Sure.
right? Sometimes it's because we're stuck, right? And we're
Right.
stuck someplace we can't figure it out.
Hmm.
But also sometimes it's just because we want to autopilot. Like sometimes I'll turn my
Yeah.
GPS on to go somewhere I kind of know how to get to already,
Hmm.
just so I don't have to think about it as much. So I think, we use the GPS for so many different things, and I think regardless of where you are in your goal process, right? If you're lost, if you're stuck, or even if you just want to make the process easier, I think this system just kind of rings true with what we're trying to do here.
Right. And I think what you said there, autopilot, that could be thought of as a negative thing. And
Hmm.
certainly we've done podcasts on being current, being present and
Yeah.
being aware and all that. So that's not what we're talking about. What for goals, if you do your goals properly, set your goals properly, there is an autopilot aspect to it that you're moving in the direction that your goals are, and it's a lot of it's that subconscious, and you see opportunities that you didn't know were there before because you set that goal. And so that's where the autopilot comes in, that can be very, very useful and helpful throughout your goal.
It's like our subconscious is the autopilot.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yep. Yep.
So what we're going to talk about today is the three things, the three pieces of the GPS that you need to get where you want to go in your life with your goals and things like that. So let's get right into number one. So number one sounds obvious, right? But we have to
Right.
set our destination. And I think what
Yep.
you said earlier, like, yeah, if you pick up your GPS and just type a couple places you don't want to go, uh, it's not going to
It's
work,
not going to work.
right? It's going to be like, okay, well,
Yeah.
so I think this is important, is knowing your destination,
Yeah.
knowing where you want to go. I think most people struggle with this because they have that general idea. They know what they don't want. They have that general idea of
Yeah.
where they kind of want to go,
Yeah.
but they don't have that specific address to plug in.
Well, and again, using the same analogy since we started with it, let's say you want to, okay, I want to go north. So that's a direction, but you could be off a couple degrees. And the further you go and the longer you go, now you're not really going north. And I mean, you're going north-ish. So you might be going northeast, but you're not going directly north. And that's where clarity of your goals, knowing this is exactly what I want. I'm clear. This is my goal. This is where I want to be. And that's such an important thing, is that'll help you because you're going to be off track.
Yeah.
If you're driving in and there's a detour because a bridge is out or they're doing road construction, well, all of a sudden you're not going north, you're going in a different direction, you're not going even towards your goal. However, it gets you back on and gets you back in the same direction, and life is like that all the time.
Yeah.
However, if the GPS didn't have that goal set of this is exactly where I'm going, once you get off track, you stay off track, and now you're going in a totally different direction.
Absolutely. It's always a straight drive from where you are. The problem is you always get offset in different directions to the next straight line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So wherever you end up, it's straight ahead, but you're always taken off the path, throughout.
Yeah.
So knowing that, that specific thing. So if this is just a reminder, if listeners, like if you haven't sat down, in at least the last 3 months and kind of reviewed your goals to see if they're still relevant, still what you're after, still what you want to do, this is a really good cue to do that. Sit down, look at where your goals are, look at those specific destinations you want, because that clarity of your goals is really what's going to give you the direction.
Right. Yep, for sure. And so this is the first step because not that to say it's the most important step. Okay. I mean, you have to have it. So I guess maybe it is the most important step because without it, none of the other ones really matter that much. But really knowing and clarity is power. That's a great saying that I like to remind myself of. And clarity also helps you with the direction, and it helps you with your goals. So
Mhm.
it's really important that you define this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is my goal. This is where I'm going and heading towards.
Yeah. Now, the second part of this, the second thing your GPS asks you, somebody said this on a podcast and it blew my mind a little bit. But the second thing your GPS asks you for is where are you starting?
Yeah.
And I think this is an interesting one because we tend to forget. And I know Tony Robbins always said, look at where you are. Don't make it better than it is, but also don't make it worse than it
Right.
is.
Right.
And I think as people, we have a really hard time pinpointing our exact location.
Hmm.
We like to say, "Oh, I'm this far out of shape, like I'm so out of shape, and maybe
Right.
it's not that bad." Or we like to say, "Oh, maybe I'm in better shape
Right.
than I actually am."
Yeah,
So
for sure.
being honest with your current position is going to help you get there.
Yeah, so pin your current location. I mean, that's really to use the GPS analogy and keep that going. That's something that can be very difficult. This could be harder sometimes than knowing exactly what you want because maybe we all lie to ourselves or fib, it's not that bad, or sometimes we do it in the opposite direction, like you said. So I think this is an important step. The evaluation process. Okay, here's where I need. So you want to get in shape. All right, this is how many push-ups I can do. This is how far I can run. This is how many sit-ups I can do. This is where I am now. Use that regardless of where you're at as motivation. So if it's not anywhere close to your goal, say, okay, that's all right. This is all the growth I'm going to have in these next few months. And if you're already, oh, I'm almost there, maybe you want to reevaluate your goal and say, maybe I need it a little more difficult. I need to have it further out. So that's a good reason to do the evaluation. But knowing where you start, because otherwise, I think you could waste a lot of time,
Yeah.
if you don't do this step.
And what I love about my GPS is I never plug in where I'm starting from. And like when I do plug it in, it never says, "Oh, I can't believe that's where you're starting from."
No, it
Like
does not.
it because that would be really
Oh my
silly if the
God.
GPS like judged you. If it was like,
Yeah,
"Oh man, I can't
that'd be
believe
hilarious.
you
What were you
suck,
doing
Mark. I can't.
there?
Yeah, you suck, Mark. What are you doing over there? What are you doing in that neighborhood, Mark? Come on." It doesn't do that, so no, so not judging, but really just making
Right.
that, like you said, I think, if you're trying to get fit and if you want to run a marathon, maybe just go for a jog and get that honest assessment of, how long you can run right now so you can really set those accurate goals.
Yeah, and a little bit to wrap this one up, I think another tool that you could use, and this one is important to find somebody that you trust, somebody that's honest with you.
Yeah.
Could certainly a good friend, a spouse, somebody you've done this with before. Then that's ask their opinion.
Hmm.
What's your opinion? Where do you think I'm at? If you're working on your conditioning, how do I look? What do I need? You take pictures of yourself. That could be very. Oh my God, I didn't know I looked that bad. Um, or just ask somebody else because oftentimes, let's say a picture, you think, okay, I don't look that good, and then how you really look in real life is way different.
Yeah.
So having that other person to bounce ideas off of and also to give you evaluation can be very, very helpful.
Yeah. 100%. And so this third one, this is my favorite out of the three, right? And I'm going to tell you exactly why. The third one is the ETA. Every
Hmm.
GPS has an ETA.
Right.
And here's why it's my favorite, because I know you do this because I do this.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
You you always think you can do it faster than the
Yes,
ETA,
and I
right? Like
usually
we get
do.
in our car, we plug it in, we hit the button, and it goes, "You're going to be here in 2 hours and 41 minutes," and you go, "Meh, I can do it in 2:30 or 2:20."
Yeah,
And for some reason, I don't know how this works because I tend to drive a little on the fast side. I can never beat the GPS. I feel like the GPS knows how I drive already and sets that timeline based on like my habits, which it probably
yeah,
does.
yeah.
So I think I love this thing about the ETA. This is how long
Hmm.
it takes.
So this is important in goal setting because you could do it. You could make yourself just unmotivated if you do either way. So if you make something too like, okay, I'm gonna do this in no time, and you set your goal unrealistically, and then you get to that timeline that you set, and you're not even halfway to your goal. You're like, oh, I'm just no good. That can be very bad. But if
Yeah.
you make it too easy for you, then you're like, well, why even set goals? That was easy. That there
Hmm.
was no problem. So it's really important that you set your ETA, but also just like your GPS does, it does adjust.
Yeah.
So everyone it's not going to adjust every minute. But if you're on a 3 hour trip, what I've noticed is about every hour there's an adjustment to it in either direction. Maybe you ran into traffic and then
Yeah.
adjusted it back. And life happens the same thing. So the big thing we talk about in the dojo with getting your black belt, it's not how long it takes you to get your black belt, it's that you get your black belt.
Yeah.
Because we have some students that have been great all the way through, very few obstacles, and they make it in a minimum time, let's say.
Yeah.
Then we have other students, there's not a maximum time, but maybe they take a little bit longer than that, and maybe they a little longer than they thought. That's okay as long as you don't stop. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go visit my family. And all of a sudden there's construction and the bridge is out and they're doing this, and you have to take all these detours. It's going to take you an extra hour out of a 4 hour trip. Well, I'm just going to turn around and go back. Well, I already drove 3 hours. It's going to be an extra hour. So now I'm going to be 2 more hours, but I'm going to drive back 3 hours. Who would do that? That would be ridiculous. You'd be
Yeah.
like, sorry, mom and dad, I just can't see you because, it was going to take me an extra hour, even though it took me
People do
three
that.
hours to get home.
People
Like,
do
who
that.
does that? But if you think about it, don't some of us do that in our goals?
Hmm.
Like we're there, we're close, but we're having all these obstacles and we're off track.
Yeah.
And instead of getting back on track, we just get off track even more, and then we slide backwards to where we started from.
Yeah.
And then
That's
all
funny.
that time that we worked to get halfway towards our goal is now basically wasted if you think about it. I don't think anything's totally wasted because there's a learning experience usually involved in
Mhm.
that. Um, but you could argue that, yeah, I wasted a lot of time because I quit. So
That's
don't
right.
quit.
No,
So don't
100%.
quit.
And what
Yeah.
I love about martial arts is, I mean, black belt kind of takes, as much as there's faster and slower, it kind of takes what it takes to get a black belt, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if somebody comes in and they go, "Well, can I do that in like 2 or 3 weeks?" The answer is no,
You can go down the road, but
100%.
that's the answer.
But we have belts as checkpoints, right? So you
Yeah.
don't so you can stay motivated. And I think every year I drive to South Carolina, with
Right.
the family, and from here it's like a 17-hour drive.
Right.
And when you first plug that into the GPS, your brain goes, "Oh man, this is going to stink," right?
Yeah.
And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are like that if we're coming from a point where it's going to take longer.
Right.
And now on my journey, to South Carolina, enter Sheets, not a sponsor, but it became when the kids were younger, it was, well, how long till I get to the next stop, the next
Yeah.
Sheets, the next rest stop, so
Right.
we can go to the bathroom, get snacks, and do our thing. And
Right.
that made the trip more enjoyable because we
Right.
were doing it in little chunks.
Hmm.
So if the goal that you have from where you are is a long way, it's really important to break up checkpoints, where you can stop, where you can pat
Hmm.
yourself on the back, and where you can look at your progress. Because we've talked about it on other podcasts. It's easy to look at the distance you have left to go, right? It's
Right.
very easy to say, I still have that long way to go. but
Yeah.
it's a lot more effective from a goal perspective to look at how far we've come from where we
Right.
started,
Right.
right? That's what keeps us motivated. That's what
Right.
keeps us going. So
Yep. Yep. Very good. Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's review. I think this is very helpful if you just take this analogy and run with it. So the first one is set your destination. So, and this is about being clear with exactly where you want to go and what you want to become.
absolutely. Number two, pin your current location and be honest about where you are without judging where you're starting from. Just be totally honest with yourself. This is where I am. That way the GPS can do its work.
And number three is set a realistic ETA. So how long is this goal going to take? And be realistic. It's okay to say, okay, I can do it 10% faster than my goal. That's fine. That to challenge yourself, but and also be able to readjust. So if you have a big crisis that happens with your goal that sets you off track, just reset the timeline. Don't reset the goal. Just reset the timeline.
Absolutely. Trust the GPS of life to help you achieve the goals that you want. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Share it with your favorite GPS user or anyone who
Yeah.
can use this. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.